Hey, what's up, guys? It is your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh! Superhero, Ben 2000 of YuGiOh. This video is going to be a little bit different than what I initially planned. I wanted to give you guys a deck profile, but that's going to take a little more time. The reason why I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys know up front, the reason why my deck profiles are going to take a little more time than they used to is because I usually do this little skit at the front of them. And I stupidly dropped my phone yesterday, and the crack that is on the phone is right by the front facing camera, so now I can't see myself anymore when I record, uh, unless you guys want to put up with a fog, which is what it looks like. It looks like I have a fog filter over the camera, so it just doesn't look any good. So I have to now use the outward facing camera on the phone, and basically that means is I can't see. So that means basically what that means is it's going to be the screen will be a little darker than I preferably like it. I guess because the front facing camera is has a lot of better light exposure. I guess I don't fucking know because I bet it's probably for selfies, that kind of thing. And then the other part of it is because I can't see. I may have to do a lot of reshoots. So it means where I have to try again to get a decent video or picture. So anyway, that being said, today's video is going to be something that's a little bit different than what I normally would get into, and that is we're going to be doing a ban list discussion video today. And I have my opinions on how the ban list should go and what I think will happen. So what I'm going to do is, if you guys want to know what I think will actually happen on the ban list, stay close to the end. And that's what I'm going to leave for the very tail end of this video is what I think will actually happen. What I'm going to tell you is what I think should happen. And this isn't, I guess you could call it a wish list if you'd like. I personally am looking at it from the idea of the health of the game, and for the overall goal of, making the decks as equal as they can be with the existing card pool. So that being said, let's go ahead and hop into this discussion. And boom, now I'm down here. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is we have this line of cards down here, and these are just kind of some cards that are kind of obvious that need to move on the list. Well, most of them. This one not so much. This one's just kind of an example. So basically, I guess the first things first we need to talk about is why are these cards on my personal list of where that they need to move. And this one, of course. This card's just an example. I guess we'll go ahead and start and get that one out of the way so I can go ahead and get this card off the screen. Basically, it's the same concept as this card. There we go. So, look, basically, these three cards all serve the same purpose. Now, you're kind of wondering, like, okay, so if that's the true, why do you have infinite impermanence? You want to know what's different from impermanence from the other two? This card can only work on special summon monsters, and this card can only work in the main phase, and this card is basically the uncalled by the Graveable equivalent to these two monsters. So, in my opinion, personally for the health of the game, this card needs to go. Just Imperm needs to get out of here and go straight off the list, be gone. Because there's already two cards that serve its same purpose and actually have a counter. And personally, yes, I want them to be counterable, and Imperm is harder to counter. So therefore, Imperm, in my opinion, needs to go away. All right, now that's been said. All right, so I guess since we're going down the line, Ash Blossom. I think Ash Blossom should also go as a hand trap because, to be honest, this card it just stops too much. It has three separate effects, one of which is worded in such a way that it actually is two effects in one. Alright, so the first one being adding a card from deck to hand. That's including not just searching, but drawing as well. So in my opinion, the only way I would say that Ash Blossom should be allowed to stay in the game is if it gets errated to stop, so it doesn't stop special summons from the deck or sending from deck to grave. That's just my opinion, for the record, guys. All this is opinion. These are things. I think Ash Blossom is really too strong for the game, and it needs to get out of here. It's literally infecting every deck on this on the planet, and then of course against the meta decks, it's not as useful as it used to be, but it's far more useful against all the other decks. You get where I'm getting at? Like, this is a card that a meta player really, like, especially this is a card a meta player wants because it slows down other meta decks just a little bit, enough for to maybe get an advantage, and then it completely can kill anything that's in the tier 2 section or lower. So that's just my opinion. So for the record, if I've made anyone mad, they're like, "No, how dare you, Ben 10,000?" You'll get over it someday. It's just an opinion. All right. Now we have Block Dragon. This card probably also needs to go. Realistically, just because Adamantipator is ridiculous, and this card allows them basically a +3 in card advantage, and that's just, oh my god. A +1 is one thing. Hell, a +2 is one thing, but a +3 and going forward further than that is ridiculous in my opinion. And that's the end of that. And plus the card's like a Dragon Ruler, and do you see any of the other Dragon Rulers outside of Tempest back? No, you don't. Like, let's be honest. If they brought back Redox and took this off the list, that'd be a fair trade. Adamantipator still they have a lot of Earth monsters, they play a lot of Rock monsters, they still have a card to get like a free summon if they should need it, or a 3,000 body, and it would be just another Monster Reborn for the deck. And this card is, but it doesn't search them 3 freaking monsters, and that's, yeah. Alright, Red Eyes. Red Eyes can go ahead and come to 3, and the reason why I say that is because, let's be honest, with its errata being a hard once per turn now, Red Eyes is no longer a threat. And let's face it, the time when Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon was actually a threatening monster is really come and gone, in my opinion. Like, we are literally in a game where, having big monsters just isn't enough anymore. Your big monsters have to do a lot. And frankly, there's no like dragon that's like a main deck dragon that does a lot of negation, in my opinion, that could stop this. Yes, there are dragons that negate effects, but there's nothing like this card. There's no main deck dragon that this card can summon that's like an Omni negate or anything, unless it was summoned properly from the extra deck or off its own ability. But that's not the point I'm getting at. There's no free dragon it can summon. All right, now we got Red Eyes Fusion, and of course, since we're on Red Eyes Fusion, we're going to go ahead and move these 2 cards together. Verte Anaconda and Red Eyes Fusion. These 2 cards need to be hit in some shape, form, or fashion. And here's why. I'm actually more leaning towards Red Eyes Fusion going, and Predaplant Anaconda still being here, because, like I said, like when I showed you guys Impermanence, there's still Effect Veiler, there's still the Ghost monster, whose name escapes me, that can stop this from even getting to this card in the first place, or any other card that would get to it. But honestly, these 2 cards need to be hit in some capacity, because we have this royal pain in the ass coming. Not Dragoonity, Dragoon. This mofo right here. This guy is coming here into the game, and I truth to be told, he doesn't really bother me. Like, his existence in and of itself doesn't bother me. What bothers me about this card is that he's going to see a lot of play in decks that he shouldn't be seeing play in. He needs to be either in a dedicated Red Eyes deck or a dedicated Dark Magician deck. And those are the 2 decks that should be able to play him. But unfortunately, because these cards exist, you're going to see these cards right here. These 3 guys are going to be, and along with DM and Red Eyes, you're going to see them in multiple decks they don't belong in. Like, for example, in the OCG, they have a Guru Dragoon deck, where basically all it is Anaconda, triple of this dude, because, like, it's literally just any two effect monsters make this card, so, yeah. And then they have this indestructible Dragoon guy, so he wouldn't bother me if he was just stuck in his own dedicated deck, but unfortunately, Konami didn't have the foresight to get rid of the cards that facilitate him being played and everything else, so... Or they did and they just don't care. That's kind of the option I'm leaning towards, but that I digress. Point being, this card needs to get out of here before it becomes these cards need to get out of here before they become a problem because of this card. So that's just another thing there. All right, then we got the cards that are basically these cards have been hot topics lately, and they're in the same vein. That's Utopic Zexal and Calamities. A lot of players want these to go away because, to be frank, they make it to where it's impossible to play the game. And truth be told, I'm actually not against that idea. Basically, the top 5 decks right now, in my opinion, are, of course, Adamantipator, Eldritch, Dogmatica, whatever you want to pair Dogmatica with. It's mostly Invoke Shadal, the Dogmatica, but yeah, it's those are the big three, and then you have like Dragon Link, and then you have what, in my opinion, the basically the Utopic deck is basically what it is. What it is it's the same concept as the Dragoon Red Eyes deck that I was telling you about. Basically, it's decks that are playing the new Numeron cards that basically allow them to either get an OTK on the field by having four giant ass fucking monsters that just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger every time they swing. So they just basically brutalize your life points. Or you have this utopic monster that says you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! And your only out to that card is like Nibiru. That's it. That's your only out. Unless you happen to top deck something like the what is it called? Like, I think it's called Parallel Exceed or whatever. It's a quick play spell that bounces back Exceed monsters. I can't remember its name exactly off the top of my head. Or you have Forbidden Chalice or any other kind of card that is like fast effect negation to stop this card from going off. But they're not going to stop at this card. You're still going to set up a bunch of back row hate to, or not back row hate. They're going to set up a bunch of back row to assist this guy in making sure you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh. So unless you're playing traps, so because even though you can't activate anything, you can still set things and have them activate on the opponent's turn. You know, it's frustrating and annoying, and it's something that you'll have to deal with. But these two cards are fine to go. Or they're in the same vein. Calamities is in the same vein as this card. It's just Calamities is more aimed at monsters. I'm actually not against the idea of Calamities going, if I'm going to be brutally honest, because like even in the Dinosaur deck right now, which is the big deck that really uses him, I'm that and Generators, which is Generators are actually more the reason why I'm more okay with it. As a Dinosaur player, yes, I do play Calamities, but I will gladly trade away Calamities if you'll give me another Lithosagem. So, you know what I mean? Like, hey, more playing the game, or card that says no one can play the game. I'd rather have more playing the game. You know what I mean? And making my dinosaur deck being a little less affected by babies, or not affected by babies, by my hand traps, by popping baby dinosaurs. So there you go. So that's something that those cards probably need to get on the ban list, but I would be okay with Calamities going away so that the Generator deck can not have a card like Calamities ever again, and then maybe I could also have Lithosagem back in the deck, which means I could pop baby dinosaurs and make dinosaur plays more often. So, and then since Konami seems to be going for a anti extra deck based kind of thing, since we're seeing a lot more cards like that, like back in the day, it was just like Dragunity Trident or whatever, and he was hard to get out in the Dragunity deck, so you didn't really see him played a lot. And then you got Goliath, and the other Amorphage Dragon that's like level 6 that I can't remember his name. And you have Lithosagem, and now you have Dogmatica. So Konami's going and making more of these anti-extra deck strategies, and I find them very interesting. So I don't see why Lithosagem couldn't come off the list especially if we're gonna have the Dogmatica roaming around, being a pain in the ass for everybody. All right, and then we have Colossus. I want this card maybe to come back as a one of. Now I know that some people are gonna be like, no, you can't. The Nemesis Wind Monster exists. That card can't do that. You're gonna have the same thing. And that argument, I get that. I get that argument. I do. But I know that there's gonna be people who want to just splash that Wind attribute Nemesis monster, but getting rid of one Thunder Dragon Colossus really isn't that hard of a problem. And that it's a floodgate that I feel like is kind of neat, that the Thunder Dragon deck really needs. They need to have their one copy of Colossus, and it's a Thunder King, and Thunder King doesn't see any play in the modern day. So yes, he's bigger, but he's literally the equivalent to this monster. So he's literally like, he's just bigger. That's really all there is to it. And you can get rid of him in the same way as you can get rid of that little tiny monster right there. So I don't see why he can't come back as a one of. I don't think the spot. I think that there are a lot of like, yes, there are a lot of monsters that do but here's the thing: it only stops cards like Rhoda. It's not going to stop things like Pot of Desires, Pot of Extravagance. All these extra like draw cards. He's easily negated. He can also be targeted. I mean, there's so much removal that is non-destruction removal right now that's non-targeting. Or even targeting in the case of this monster. He's so easy to get rid of. One kaiju done, problem solved. I mean, he's easy to get rid of. His floodgate is nowhere near as oppressive as the dragoon monster that you're gonna see splashed and everything. Yeah, you guys can't be scared of Thunder Dragon Colossus being splashable, and be okay with the Red Eyes Dragoon being splashable, because that monster is far more oppressive than this monster will ever be. All right, so now that that's out of the way, we got to talk about these two cards. These two giant ass elephants in the room that is Yu-Gi-Oh right now. So unfortunately, we have Link Cross and Halka Fiber have the Needle Fiber. Konami, what the fuck were you thinking with that name? I could go on a rant against Konami right now for hours based on names alone, but I will digress for that for right now. Needle Fiber and I'm not going to call it by the other name because I think it's fucking ridiculous. Needle Fiber and Link Cross need to go. These two cards are, and it's not that they both need to go, it's one of them needs to go. I don't really care which one, but they both need to go in some capacity because they're being splashed in literally everything. And I mean literally everything. It's disgusting. Now, normally I don't have a problem with cards being splashed in everything and having a lot of these meta relevant cards, but the thing of it is, in my mind, is I'm a budget player. So it'd be one thing if it was a budget engine, like, hey, everybody, here's this one, couple or $5 engine that speeds up your deck. Like, for example, the Perform Age clowns back in the day, they were that, by the way. Like Damage Juggler, Hat Tricker, and all that stuff. That was a rank 4 engine back in the day that was really cheap. It was entirely common, and everybody could play it, and their rank 4 deck, and I liked that aspect of it because it was a cheap and viable engine. So those things don't bother me. What bothers me is when we have cards that are kind of pricey, like Halka Fibrax. But that's the thing I have a problem with, is that these cards are very expensive, and they're splashed in literally everything to make them horribly viable. And so that's my beef with it. I would much rather it if we had engines that are cheap and splashable, then I think the engines that are splashable and very expensive, I just have an issue with that. And I know some people I know, they're like, well, Ben, not everything can be cheap. I'm like, that's true. However, you know what? I will cover that topic maybe a little bit later in this video. We'll see. This video is going to be fairly long. But the point of it is that, yeah, one of these cards needs to go in some form of capacity, because it's infecting the game, where these two cards have kind of they're like a virus. They've infected the game. All right, so now we're going to go over to the FNL list that currently stands, and we're going to kind of go over some more monsters that I didn't have saved over here. I also think Pankratops could come back to more than one. It was always a side card for the most part. I'm not even sure why Konami limited it, to be honest, outside of maybe wanting to piss off some dinosaur players. We're going to go Gen X Ally Birdman. I mean, if you get rid of Link Cross or Halka Fibrax, this card could come back to more than one. ABC Dragon Buster. I mean, look, if you're gonna, you want to know why he's on the list? I can tell you why he's straight up on the list. He's not on the list because he's actually a threatening monster. As far as like he's too strong for the game. He's literally just this. He's a Trident essentially, a Zodiac Trident. He's on the list because, to be frank, he's a cheap, quick play disruption monster. That's all there is to it. Like, legitimately, you got him out of a structure deck. That's why. Konami does not like cheap disruption. I'm not seeing too many that I think necessarily need to leave the area. I mean, I personally would like Terraforming to go to more than one copy, but only if they're going to get rid of something like Mystic Mine. Let's go ahead and we'll just... That's another one I can't believe I almost forgot. That's why we're doing it this way instead of doing it like the tier maker, because I would have been hunting for pictures forever. This is another card that I really think needs to go. If this card needs to be as a 1, at least go down to 1. And the reason I say that is at 1 is because then you get rid of the Mystic Mine dedicated decks, because then they only have 1 copy. And of course I know that there's going to be like, well, you still have all they still have all the other cards that search Mystic Mine. That's true. But if I get rid of your one Mystic Mine, then what happens to your deck? But if Mystic Mine went away, then Terraforming could come back, in my opinion. Um, I will say this though, like I'm glad that they're giving Dragon Ravine a searcher. The OCG is giving them a Dragoonity monster that searches Dragon Ravine, so Dragon deck still kind of can use that in a way. So I like that. That might be something Konami's going to lean more towards, is giving us monster searchers that search specific field spells. So I'm pretty okay with that idea. I think everything else that's on the limited list is fine to stay there. Scapegoat, I almost wonder if it could come back to more than one, because it's the game seems to be progressing past it's just too slow. It doesn't really matter if it can get a Link 4 out or not. It just feels like it's too slow. But that's debatable, to be brutally honest. I actually think Red Reboot should come back to 3. You want me to be honest? I also think Skill Drain should come back to 3. But let me go to Reboot first, and then I'll go to Skill Drain. Red Reboot totally could come back to 3, and the reason why is because fuck back row bitches. I'm sorry. Sorry for all the Altergeist players and Guru players in my audience, but you guys are royal pains in the butt. In fact, Mystic Mind players you're also a back row bitch. So, and Red Reboot kind of tells all of these decks that play these like massive like trap floodgates, or just rely on their trap cards to just kind of screw off. And I'm all about it. No. Yu-Gi-Oh is supposed to be a fight between monsters, in my opinion. Speaking of fights between monsters, now this is a floodgate I'm okay with being at 3 of, as long as we got a certain card. Let me move this over here real quick, and I'll show you the card I'm talking about. All right, this is the card I was talking about. Is Monarch's Erupt. I would much rather this card get completely banned, gone, and have Skill Drain back to 3. And the reason why is because Skill Drain is a both players' field gets affected. Now I know that some players are going to be mad about that idea. They don't like the idea, but the truth is, in my opinion, Yu-Gi-Oh should be a battle of monsters. You know what I mean? Now, and that's where this cards like Skill Drain come in handy, because back in the day, people used this with cards like Beast King Barbaros and the Malefic monsters. They had big monsters, and now every deck has access to big monsters. We all have them. Like, we literally do all have monsters that are big, and we also have lots of back row hate. Now, and if I had my way, actually, that's going to lead into the next card I want to talk about. Is there's another piece of back row hate that I think we should come off the list. Skill Drain is just one of those cards that I think would also facilitate that idea, and also it makes the unfairness of this card, like, because let's face it, guys, the only decks that are playing Monarch's Erupt are Monarchs or True Draco. And let's face it, True Draco's another one of those back row bitch decks. But their monsters get to, we still get to get searches for more of our back row. So, under Skill Drain, they don't get their searches, and this is a fair fight now. So, I like I said, I'm all about trying to, ferretize the game, essentially, and make sure everybody has counters to something. And I don't really care if there's some players don't like the idea of a fair Yu-Gi-Oh! In my opinion, you're just wrong, and I don't care. You can get mad at me. So that's the reason why. All right, but to lead it back to what I was going to talk about is we need to. I guess we need to go to the ban section then. I guess. Another card that can come off because of those cards is that I think could come off in the ban section is, it's actually one of 2 cards. It's either Harpy's Feather Duster or Heavy Storm, either one. Or even Giant Trunade. Just one of those 3 cards needs to come off the list, and the reason why I say that is because we have Lightning Storm, which is basically Harpy's Feather Duster, and Regeki had a fucking baby and just destroyed everything. So if that cards can exist in this game, and then Harpy's Feather Duster needs to come off the game, and the only reason why I can think of that Konami doesn't want either that or Heavy Storm off the list is for the sole reason is those cards are cheaper. So I literally could spend literally for the price of 1 Lightning Storm, I could give all 10 of my decks a copy of Harpy's Feather Duster or Heavy Storm, and probably could do it for a fraction of the cost. So that's the only thing that I can think of there with that. But since we're in the ban section, we'll go over some more cards that I think should get moved, depending on if other things need to leave the field. Um, like I said, if we got rid of Halka Fibrax or Linkross, I think Glow Bulb could come back. That would be another one there. Personally, I don't have a problem if Ash Blossom went away. Give us back Maxi. It's or if you're gonna leave Ash Blossom at fucking 3, at least give us back Maxi. I don't care, and I honestly don't care if it's to 1. I know some players don't like the sackiness of it, but literally Maxi isn't really a dangerous card, and I'm going to prove it to you because Nibiru serves the exact same purpose as Maxi. Yeah. Hashtag facts. Anyway, that's what I'm saying is Maxi can come off of the list because Nibiru exists. Nibiru is literally serves the exact same purpose, and it goes now. It will say this: it does go a different route, obviously, but it's the same goal. Whereas Nibiru is like trying to tribute the opponent's monsters to give them a crappy token that they can't really use to defend themselves with, and basically get rid of their resources. Maxi does the same purpose, but by using the Maxi challenge. So go ahead. You want to special summon a crap ton? Go ahead. I'm just gonna keep drawing my cards, and if you're like most decks these days, you're gonna have a lot of hand traps. So your Maxi's gonna get you to more of your hand traps to slow them down. You see where I'm getting at? Or if it doesn't, it gives you enough cards to bypass all their mountains of negation. So then it's just, do you want to take the Maxi challenge or not? And I mean, and I'm of the mindset that like I really wish that there was a certain thing in, like, I don't know, maybe if you guys give me enough likes in this video, maybe I'll make a video about like rule changes that I think need to be happening. If Halka gets banned, I don't see why Dandelion can't come back. We're kind of out of the Link era only format, so now it's not quite as threatening as it used to be. Cyberjar could come back to 1. I wouldn't really care. Its flip effects just are archaic in general. I feel that way about Fiber Jar a little bit too, but I feel like somebody would put this in Empty Jar and do something gnarly with it. So, yeah. Iris Magician, I don't know about this card. You know what? I don't care. It can come back. Fuck it. We'll throw Triff a bone. This card can just not exist anymore. Personally, I'm okay with Fairy Tale Snow coming back, and the reason I say that though is because I'm primarily a Light Swarm player. And it was banned because Brilliant Fusion exists. Well, since Brilliant Fusion's out of the picture now, Fairy Tale Snow could come back because there's only like 3 decks that could actually use the damn thing. Destrudo could come back if Frabax goes away. It's a good, helps make synchro monsters. I'm okay with this card being gone. Although personally, I don't really care about. I think they hit the wrong card in Spiral. If I was gonna hit one, I would hit the. If I was hitting cards in the Spiral deck, I'd hit the Towers monster. That's just me personally. I don't mind the Dragon Rulers coming back. I think the only thing that is, like, truth be told, the Dragon Rulers, it can only come back if certain cards go away. Well, I say that, but Redox is realistically the only one that could come back, but only if Block Dragon goes away. And then, of course, I'm okay with Blaster coming back. I know some people are scared of Salamangreat having access to Blaster because, it'll fill the graveyard with fire monsters and he can do pops and that kind of thing. I'm not really intimidated. Title is the only one that I still question about whether the ability to come back, but that's just because Mermail would abuse the crap out of it. So, yeah, this is my very chaotic Banlist prediction slash what I think should happen. I think that's literally it. I don't really think that there's anything else I can. I guess this card Denglong could come back. I wouldn't be offended by that. Dark Matter. Well, if the Dragon Rulers are gonna stay gone, you should give back Dark Matter. But since Dark Matter was the reason the Dragon Rulers were gone in the first place, you should at least give back Blaster and Redox. That's just my opinion again. Let's see here. A lot of these cards can go away. Now, I've seen some people say they want Rusty Bardiche back. That I think that one comes from Uncool 40 because he mentioned something about that. I'm not actually against that idea, but maybe not yet. But bringing back Rusty Bardiche wouldn't be the worst thing. It also could improve sales for one of Konami's sets because they have one where it's all about Xyz monsters coming out. So that could be there. This card wasn't really a problem, if we're going to be honest. Electromite was just a pendulum helping card. I mean, I used it too in my weird ass like Metal Foes dinosaur deck, so he's not all that impactful. I don't. I'm still. I'm not sure why to this day they got rid of him. Outside of the just Konami trying to end the pendulums as a whole, and try to pretend they don't exist. You made the card, Konami. Own it. All right, we've been over all the back row hating cards. All right, pot of greed. People have been Konami's been teasing about the cards that make up the 3 tactical talents card. Out of all of them, I guess if I had to have my choice, pot of greed would be the one I would want out of them. But I don't know. The other one is change of heart, and the reason why is because these are the cards I feel like are the least oppressive, in my opinion, because everybody will use pot of greed, and pot of greed's has common printing, so everybody can get a hold of it. If they go that route. Now let's see here. Kaiser Coliseum, in my opinion, could come back, but that's just my opinion, man. I don't know. I don't. This card wasn't really all that intimidating, in my opinion. It was only really used by the Bujin deck, so that card could come back, but it probably won't. I'm just saying it could. It's really not that. All right, let's go to the semi limit now. Some of these are actually pretty accurate to like come off the list further. The realistic one, Tour Guide of the Underworld, could come back to 3. I don't think anyone would care. Burning Abyss would be like, yeah, we have our starter back. Woohoo! And we don't have to rely on just pitching it with Skarm and getting to start, next turn. We could potentially open with it, which good for them. We also have Sky Striker Widow Anchor. That card could potentially come to 3, and the reason I say it could is because without their engage card that lets them draw and search, Konami, I could see Konami throwing Sky Strikers a bone and putting Sky Strikers in the same vein as like Altergeist and Guru Control. They're just at that point there's basically these 3 decks are the same deck. It's just different styles. Basically, they all have different, they'll have different goals, but they basically have the same strategy. Essentially, they just have different routes to getting there. Widow Anchor will steal and negate monster effects. I mean, and literally that's what the Sky Strikers have going for them. And then, of course, Guru and Altergeist already have a card that does the same thing as this. Basically, they have their own in-theme effect negators. So, I could see it happening. Now, I think that's all of it. All right, guys. So, let's go. Since we're on the tail end of this video real quick, now I'm going to tell you about what I think actually is going to happen in Yu-Gi-Oh! All right. Here's what I think is going to happen on the next ban list. I honestly don't think we're going to see, if we even get one at all to begin with, and I'm not going to lie, when we got a ban list last time, a ban list, and I do use the in quotes there, I honestly think that it's just Konami's way of saying, see, we're totally doing something, even though they're not. And Konami knows what the problem cards are, but realistically, we're just going to have to deal with it. This is a shit year for Yu-Gi-Oh! Thanks to the Crush Card virus, so we are just not, because we're not getting events, Konami is just going to use this as an excuse to not do anything on the ban list. It's because we can't prove anything, because we can't prove that there are problem cards in the game currently. So it's just realistically, if we get a list at all, I could see it being just another pardon list, as it's been being called online. We'll see some cards like, you'll probably see like Tour Guide and Widow Anchor, maybe even Destiny Hero Malicious go from 2 to 3, and that probably would be the only thing I could foresee happening. They might go crazy and say, here you go, here's Pot of Greed, maybe, since they've teased about pulling one of the cards that make up 3 tactical talents off of the list. But that I don't really see this list. If we get a list at all, I don't foresee it being actually impactful, because Konami's not going to take into the fact that we have problem cards in the game. And if they do hit anything, they're going to look at the oldest stuff that they can get rid of first, because they're going to be trying to milk the player base for as much as they can out of this new stuff, even though we have no events to bother even spending to warrant spending the money. So that's just my opinion on things, and I know I can probably sound a little bit negative, but it is what it is, guys. This Yu-Gi-Oh! This is not the year for Yu-Gi-Oh! That's all I can say. This would be the year for Yu-Gi-Oh! If we hadn't had this stupid virus, but it is what it is, and this is what we have to deal with. So So, guys, this has been your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh superhero. Let me know what you would like to see happen in the FNL list in the comments below. I would love to hear it, and let's get a conversation going. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Hopefully, a deck profile is on the way. Peace.